So how was bedtime? Because that sounded fun.
I know it was tricky because we always split it, and my youngest is 2.5.
Mm.
So, we've always done the bedtime. I do the two older and he does the little one. But like we never do solo parenting really. And yeah, all of a sudden it was just me. But to be
Just
fair,
you.
everyone is exhausted here because it's so hot. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I love that. Like the heat just can knock you out. But I'm also looking outside at dreary London, and I'm like, yeah, this
I
is.
mean, I have to
I'm
say
a little bit jealous.
it is raining here.
Oh, okay, that makes me feel better. Tell me more.
But it's really, 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 really hot, and it's been hot all day. But it's about this time every night, so it's about 8:30, 8:45. It just completely pours down all night long.
Okay, well,
But it is rainy season. It's rainy season here.
is it nice to just? I mean, I feel like tropical storms just have a very warmth to them. Like
Oh,
it's
agreed.
just like a night. You know, you hear those meditation recordings, and you just hear like
Yes,
jungles and rainfall, and like it's just sounds quite poetic.
it's different. I think like my daughter always says to me that it's hot rain. She's like, I love the hot rain. It's different to English rain.
Yeah.
The spitting.
I could just see your entire face change from like, the hot rain to English,
I know
English
the English
rain. Well,
rain.
this is what I want to talk to you about because you've run away
Yes,
and you've escaped everything. And I
we
just
have.
my sister-in-law told me because I was having this rant the other day, just like I need to get out. I'm done. I want to go to a forest and move there. She
Yes.
said you've got to follow. She sent me a link to your Instagram, and I've just fallen in
Yes.
love with your life. And I thought I've got
Oh,
to talk
thank
to you about
you.
this.
Yes, we've
And
left.
here you are. What was that? I've seen a lot, obviously. I've done some research and had a look
Yes.
around your profile and everything that you've been posting and just seen the emotions that have come with it. But
Yeah.
for anyone that doesn't know your story, essentially you got to a point where you felt that you were drowning and trapped,
Yes.
and then you
Yeah.
just left.
Yeah.
Tell
I
me
basically had
everything.
a mental breakdown. So we have a house in Cambridge, which we were building, renovating, and it took 5 years to do. So Paul built it all himself, but we kept having
Wow.
babies. So there was these delays and COVID, of course. And then, we created this perfect life. We did
Yeah.
all of the things. We got the mortgage, had the beautiful house, we had the nice car. Like on paper and from the outside, it couldn't have been any more perfect. And we created that life. It
Yeah.
was perfection. But when I was pregnant with my third, I had a bit of a complicated pregnancy and I had to go every 2 weeks to see a midwife. And this midwife, called Bonnie, she was leaving the UK to start a new life in Thailand. And every
Okay.
2 weeks, she would kind of tell me like the progression of her story. And I was fascinated by it all. And by my kind of 8th month of pregnancy, which I already felt like exhausted. I had a 1 year old and 2 year old at home. I had multiple businesses on the go. Like I was a crazy woman. And I thought, how am I going to do this with another baby? So I came home one day. I said to Paul, I want to go and live in Thailand. And
And what was his
we were
response to
just
that?
he stopped hammering or whatever he was doing, and he kind of just said to me, okay, we haven't finished the house yet, do you not want to live in this new house? We were just on the cusp of finishing. I said, well, I do want to live here, but I think that we should explore other options. And he went, okay.
Wow.
um he's never felt settled in the UK here. So more for him, he was wanting to travel. And when we met each other, we got pregnant quite quickly. So again, we didn't have any chance to be together and travel. And we thought, well, does your life have to be over when you have children? Yeah, we Lils was 6 months old, and we decided to go to Thailand for a month to kind of trial it.
Yeah.
Um, but Thailand was still recovering from COVID. It wasn't what we expected, unfortunately, and we were like, "This isn't for us." And I was absolutely gutted, because that was kind of our out, really. That was our thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't going to happen. So basically, we then went back to England, and I went to this big hole. I had, a tiny little baby. I was breastfeeding. I had these toddlers at home, and it was winter. It was January, and I was like,
Mm.
I really didn't. I wasn't. I was barely surviving at that point. And then we saw this post for Boundless Life on Instagram, and that's really what got the ball rolling. It all went from there.
Wow, it's amazing how much one Instagram post can just
It's
change everything.
it's honestly, when I think back, because I would drop the kids at like some form of childcare, the older two, and I no word of a lie, I would literally lay in bed all day because I was so down, and lovely baby cuddles, but I was on Instagram constantly, and I saw this post, and I was like, that's it. So that was at the weekend, and I discussed it with Paul. And by the Monday, we had a call with Boundless Life, and they explained the concept, and then yeah, we looked into it, but we couldn't afford it really. It's there is a cost entailed with it. I have 3 children, so there's a cost for each of them, so it's coming out quite expensive. And we were in a fortunate position where I had beauty salons and skin clinics that ran without me, so we were able to bring some money in, but it wasn't enough to sustain that kind of life. So we did what any sane person would do and put it on a credit card.
I was waiting for like some like, what is the secret here?
And
Right?
when people ask me, we were absolutely irresponsible and crazy. We tried to sell our house, but the market was really poor, and we would have got like 200,000 less than what we should have got. So we were like, okay, let's put it on Airbnb. We had Airbnb.annex before, so we had a tiny bit of experience, like 6 months experience, and we just thought we'll see how we get on. We booked for a year later for Boundless Bali. We chose Bali because all of the other locations were European, which isn't a problem, but I think as Brits, going to Europe is not as appealing as going to Southeast Asia. We knew we loved Thailand, so yeah, we booked it for the following January, and that whole entire year, even though we put Boundless on a credit card, I sold everything: bags, shoes, kids' toys on Facebook Marketplace. I was amazed how much money we took, and we used this money to pay for all of our accommodation for Bali for the first 6 months. So we had all of that booked and paid for, and we did nothing for that whole year. We literally stayed
Wow.
in, and saved every single penny. Paul took some like private building jobs. I wasn't working as a beauty therapist anymore. I had my salons, but I was doing skin needling at home for people. So
What, in
again, I was
Bali?
no, this was still in the UK. So
Okay.
we had like a year before we were leaving, but we had booked it.
Right, okay. When you
Um,
were saying that you didn't do anything for that year, is that as in you didn't move anywhere for that year?
as in like any activities, like we just did nothing at the weekend with the kids.
Okay.
We spent zero, sorry, I wasn't clear. So we just spent no money at all. We ate like baked beans, and it was a boring year, but we had this like game, and we knew that it was worth it. So we got our heads down for that year, and we saved and saved and saved. So by the time we were leaving for that January, we only had to find some spending money to sustain the life for the 6 months, because we paid for Boundless, everything was ready to go, and it took the pressure off Paul and I. So when we did arrive in Bali, we were absolutely exhausted, but at the same time, we were able to kind of explore other options of how to make some money and think straight, because I think in the UK you're in this cycle all of the time that you never have any time to kind of figure out, well, would I like to change my career, or would I like to do something else? It really gave us some breathing space.
Wow. Wow. So you then, what was the point after that? Because I've read, I've seen that you've put yourself on marketing courses. Was that the next step, or was there anything in
No.
between that?
So for me personally, I was going to continue to kind of run my salons and businesses afar. But I actually had no kind of career plan at all. I was kind of going to take a break and do nothing, read some books by myself, the usual, do some
Dream.
healing in Bali, and also be with the kids. And we didn't have that money pressure. The house started making some money on Airbnb, so we were like, okay, this is getting some momentum here. But Paul was learning how to trade. He'd never done it before, so he was doing lots of courses, watching YouTubes, and we were kind of like relying on that for being a bit of a side income.
Trade,
Um,
sorry to interrupt. Trade as
that's
in
all
like, and I'm thinking because he
right.
builds, like,
Forex.
what?
So forex trading. So you see people like with all the graphs and things
Yeah.
on their screens. So for him, he had no experience in that at all, but he loves numbers, and he had this kind of little interest in trading and was watching it. And we had a little bit of money put aside, like a couple of £1,000 that he would trade with to practice,
Wow.
and he just knew that he really enjoyed it and liked it. But at that point, I don't think he knew how much training that you had to do, because he's still, we're a year in and he is still learning and he's still trying to get himself going with it. So it was a big career change for him because he was a physical builder. So
Yeah, well, that's why when you
um
said when he was a builder and you said trades, I'm thinking like like a tradesman,
oh
like as in
yeah, yeah,
like
like a
tradesman.
tradesman. No, no.
Sometimes, okay, wow, well
Yes.
that's a massive
Yeah, a
complete
flip.
change. Okay, okay, I'm
So
with
he
you.
was going to see how that would go, but there was no pressure, right, for us to be, making any kind of money at that point. It was very much like we could just kind of just relax and breathe from leaving our life, which was so huge. I mean, Paul was still building at 3 a.m. and the taxi picked us up at 7 a.m. and we had Christmas guests coming in, and
Oh my
that
God.
was my first ever video. And basically we were in this beautiful 5-star resort for the first 2 weeks in Bali, where we just relaxed, spent Christmas, and I was putting the baby down to sleep. And I was not on Instagram, I wasn't on Instagram, but I loved TikTok, and I used TikTok as like a search engine. And really for my age group, TikTok isn't really a thing, right? I think it's for like the younger generation, but I just so enjoyed what the app was about. It was really informative. So I just thought I'm going to make this post while the baby was sleeping and just let people know our story. And that was at 2 o'clock Bali time. So people in the UK were still asleep. And when people started waking up, I said to Paul, "Oh, I've just done this post on TikTok." And he laughed at me and said, and I showed it to him, and there was all of like, it wasn't edited very well. I hadn't changed the wording on it, so it said all these funny words on the screen. It was not professional, and the way I was talking on it, there was no kind of direction with it at all. And I just watched, all of a sudden there was like 50 views, 100 views, and so on. And then like 5 followers, 10 followers. And we stayed up all night long, and I gained 25,000 followers in 12 hours. It was
Wow.
unbelievable. And we filmed it, watching the phone just ping, and every single second follower, like 100 followers a second. It was unbelievable. And I was like, what is happening? Like, people are genuinely interested in what we're doing. And that was the start of it, really. That was the start of the kind of social media side. And we had no intention at all, and I have no experience in it. I don't even have personal social media. So it was a bit of a scary time, actually, because I
Yeah.
felt like I had to then follow up with a post.
Oh,
But
the pressure
what?
of social media. Yeah.
The pressure of social media.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to post or what to do. So it was actually a bit scary.
I can imagine. I can imagine because also there's a pressure to perform all the time. And I know,
Yeah.
I mean, I have nowhere near as many followers as you, but it's very much like, well, something goes well, and then it's like you have to think of the next
Yeah.
thing, and you
Yeah.
have to keep these people entertained, and
Yes. And
it's
interested.
100%. But also, what I find interesting is that you've kind of done what we're all doing, and that's the whole comparison thing on social media. You've gone on, you've seen people living their best lives,
Yeah.
and we're sort of told, don't compare yourself on social media, don't do it like it's the highlight reel. But you've gone, no, I like that, I want that, I'm doing it, and you've gone for it
Yes.
and
And
just kind
left.
of blown it all out of the water. So
I know.
maybe we should all be comparing ourselves and leave.
Well, exactly. And I think if other people can do it, it's accessible, it can be done. So, and it can be done. But I think that we're too scared to make the leap or the jump, because we've kind of been conditioned into thinking like, you've created the life, right? So you've worked really hard for the life you have, for the house, the family unit, your family down the road, all of the things. So to walk away from it is difficult. Like, it's not an easy decision to make. And it definitely wasn't easy for us. But I had to see if there was something on the other side. I had to. I was like
Because
a dog with a bone.
of course. But then sometimes I get this feeling, it's not sometimes, I get this feeling
Yeah.
like there's more to life. than
Yes.
just this. And that's why your story really rings true with me, and I can relate to a lot of it, in that you
Yeah.
just kind of want to break these barriers. But when I have the conversations, it kind of emerges like, well, that's not reality. And yes, it's lovely to go somewhere on holiday
Yeah.
and it's lovely to
Yes.
be there for a bit, but the reality of living there isn't quite like that. And
Yeah.
things, the grass isn't greener on the other side. So you have to
Yeah.
just water where you are. You have to be grateful for what you have.
Yes. That's so true.
But you've broken it. You've done what a lot of us are dreaming about. And
Yeah.
is the reality good? Because it seems like it is. Or are you
Yeah.
just putting up a really wonderful highlight reel for us?
I mean, on on the socials, I post, what people want to see on the grid. That's what the grid is about. But what's become very popular for me is my stories, and I'm really consistent every single day with my stories. And I post probably between like 40 to 50 stories per day, which sounds excessive, but I take everybody along with me for every single tiny little thing. And there has been some real lows, and I've taken everyone along with me, and it has, majority of the time it has been great, but there has been a lot of hurdles. There's been some really hard times, especially when we were traveling through Europe and it wasn't really suited for us. We weren't having the best time, and that really came across, I think, in my socials. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're miserable. But I really struggled to pretend that everything was okay. So we knew we had to come back to Bali, and that's where our hearts were. But yeah, there have been some lows as well as the highs. But I would say that if, like, we couldn't go back to our old life, um, at all. And I think that it's not just the lifestyle that's offered here. We couldn't actually afford to go back to the UK even if we wanted to. Our house has become our business now, so we couldn't go and live back in our home. So that gives us a really nice life out here, and the cost of living is a lot lower. Balinese people are the most beautiful people I've ever met. And being surrounded by that every single day and that positivity, it really does something to you. Like waking up to a smiley face outside and everyone's so amazing to you. There's people aren't miserable here. And people talk to each other, people socialize, people want to see each other, and it's truly special. And I know a lot of people, they come at me for obviously saying that we're exploiting Southeast Asia because obviously the pound is a lot stronger than over here. But yes, we do have a nicer life here, but also the Balinese people are very, very grateful for the tourism that's here. It's really injected a lot of money into especially Sanur where we are, and there's some really wealthy people here now, and Balinese people, because of foreigners coming over.
What did you find the big difference was between Europe? Because I go to Europe and I think, oh, they're so
Yeah,
lovely there.
I know.
What was your low points? Because this was pre me researching you, and I didn't see the
Yes,
stories. I've just
so
gone, oh, this looks lovely, and what a
I
great
know.
life. What were the lows? Give us some dirt.
It
What was the
was,
hardest bit?
well, I think if you come to Bali first and then you go on to another country, I think whatever country it is, you'll be hard pressed. It's like this reverse culture shock thing, because honestly, every day everyone is so happy and so grateful. It's beautiful here. We went to Singapore straight after, and we were in a taxi, and the taxi driver shushed the children, and it wasn't child friendly there at all. And the pressure that Paul and I felt was huge, that we then put that pressure on the children, like, behave yourself, be quiet. In Bali it's not like that. All the beach clubs, all of the restaurants are very inclusive of children and families. It's very family orientated. So we struggled with Singapore, and then going off to Europe, one of the issues was obviously the expense. Compared to Bali, like, we saved a pot of money, we spent that like it was going out of fashion. So we were struggling to keep up with the expense. But also, yeah, just people. Greece was kind of okay. We were in Greece and that was okay with the kids. But I mean, went through Albania. We actually left Albania early. We just did not get along there at all. And I think that there's this thing, it was the same in Montenegro, like with Eastern Europe here, in Eastern Europe, there is just a different culture there. And maybe it wouldn't have been so crazily harsh if we hadn't been to Bali first. but we
Yeah.
were spoiled here. So the comparison was quite big.
It set the
Um,
bar.
yeah, it set the bar exactly. So yeah, we did struggle in the other countries. I mean, we loved Greece. It was really, really beautiful, but at the same time, just the expense was keeping us from doing activities. So we spent like a lot of time inside. We couldn't do things we wanted to do, and we'd also book hotel rooms that weren't equipped for a family of five. We would have blow up mattresses for the children to try and save money. And because Paul and I, we're not bringing money in like we used to, so we have to be careful with our money. And just here in Bali, we can just live a much better life. So everyone's a lot happier.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that really stood out to me was that you were prioritizing your kids as well. And I know you said with your son that he couldn't regulate, he
Yeah.
didn't fit in the school system, and
Yeah.
it's completely different. What was going on for him, and what have you seen the
I
changes?
mean, so it was my daughter that was supposed to start school in the UK, and I think she would have been okay, but she is like a bit of a people pleaser. But I just thought, wow, you're so young. Like she was just turning five, and I was going to put her into this school like 5 days a week, 9 till 3:30, and I just thought, my goodness, like I'm never going to see her. But it's just what everyone does, right? And no one questions it. It's just like this natural progression. Like your kids turn this certain age, so you send them to school. And I follow someone called Hannah Educates, and she's from the UK, and she homeschools her children. And it's not something that I ever thought that I would do. But lots of things started like resonating with me. And I thought, hang on. And she told me, well, she put out on her socials that school was an opt-in option. And I was, and homeschooling was the default. And I was like, what? And the school were really hot on me to register, register, register. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. And Paul and I spoke, and we knew we wanted to leave, but otherwise we were like, let's homeschool. But also, like, she's so young that I think in is it Finland, they don't send their kids to school till they're 7.
Yeah.
So we were going to wait anyway. But my son, it was really apparent early on that, I mean, he had a lot of energy. He loves being outside, and he wasn't surviving in the environment in the UK. I think if I had sent him to a school environment, it would have finished him off. Like
Mm.
he was, yeah. But if we had put him in a box, he would not have thrived in that environment. So we knew that we wanted him to be free. And when we went to Thailand, that boy ran up and down the beach and kicked a ball all day long. Like he just loved being in the ocean. He loved being on the beach. He loved swimming. And our little boy, who was quite highly stressed, he had very bad eczema all over his body. He would sometimes like have this like cough reaction, which was, I think, again, like sensitivities, but the coughing, sometimes he would be sick. And I do believe his environment just wasn't right for him, because in Thailand we had none of that. He was a different child, his mood was different, and we were just a happy family unit. So we
Yeah.
knew that we just couldn't be in the UK.
Mm.
And then we were happy, we would happily homeschool, like travel the world and homeschool the kids, but they are still pretty young, so it's not like we have to do any kind of serious stuff learning with them. But when we found Boundless, it was an easy breezy environment for him, lots of outdoors. It's not very regimented, there's no curriculum, there's no testing, and there's no pressure. I think that there was a lot of pressure in the UK, especially on my daughter. I mean, she was only 5 and she was at like a preschool, and they would say, oh well, you have to, even if you're colouring this in by this amount of time, like there was always a deadline for things. And Boundless don't do anything like that, and it's free learning, and it really suits them.
You got to tell us what boundless life is. Like I know because I've had a look,
Yes.
but anyone that's listening and like, what is this boundless? What's the magic?
Boundless.
Tell us.
It's a world schooling program. So there's other families like us who are traveling the world with their children, and they're homeschooling, world schooling. But what they're doing is using the education hubs all over the world that Boundless create. So they have 8 destinations at the moment. They're always releasing new ones all the time. So yeah, you can send your kids on 3-month cohorts at a time. So that's what we did in January. We did a 3-month cohort in January, and they do go Monday to Friday. But in that time, they do have some days off in the week and they go on field trips. And if you didn't want to send them one day, you don't have to. There's no rules like in the UK where you have to send your kids and you get fined if you don't. And yeah, so you go for 3 months at a time, and then you could move on to another country and do a cohort in Spain, for example. But we decided to stay on at Bali. So we did 6 months in total, so two back-to-back cohorts. And then we had the summer off, and then we did a cohort in Montenegro, which was lovely. And then now we're back in Boundless again here. My kids loved it so much. So it's kind of like a schooling program, but they're not following any curriculum. They do follow the Finnish education system, and it's very child led as well. So if they do different things, each cohort they do something different. So in Montenegro they learn about biodiversity and cleaning up the seas, and then this time they're doing about peace and equity. So people are the equality in people, not equity,
Wow.
equality, sorry, the long day.
I was
um
listening. I was like, okay, maybe there's just my
Not
brain's like,
equity,
there's something
I
posh
mean,
here.
there's something, yeah, like learning about
I'm
money.
not
But no,
smart.
sorry, peace and equality. So they're learning,
Yeah,
everybody, equality in the world, and
yeah,
they're learning about like really big things, but in a fun way, and big things in the world. So they also learn, like my 5-year old is, she's learning how to read and write as well, and phonetics, and she's really enjoying it, but it's at a more of a relaxed pace than it would be in the UK.
yeah,
So if you got well, she's just turned 6, if you got her together with probably kids in her age range, she'd be classed probably as behind, because she wouldn't be doing all the things that they're doing. But there's a lot of studies and a lot of things to show that kids really don't need to be doing that until they're like 8 to 10 years old, and that the kids catch up really, really quickly. It's just that in the UK, we do this at such a young age. Like,
yeah.
we really push them at such a young age when they don't need to be doing that. They don't need to be writing an essay at 6 year old, 6 years old.
How do you break
So
that conditioning though? Because I
mm,
found it in myself before I got into the school system with my son. It was very much
yeah,
like, well, they don't need to be doing this. And then he started doing
yes,
well, and they're like, he's great and he's above average for this. And I'm like,
yes,
he's smart, he's a genius. And then there's people that are going, he's really clever, get him into coding, do this, get him in like doing this. And I just feel this expectation that I'm putting the pressure on him. And
yeah,
how do you break away from that system of
it's hard.
just of worrying that, because I feel like, well, if I put myself in that position, and I completely agree with all of this, it's completely on the same like,
Yeah,
vibe as me, that I don't believe kids should be in school and I wanted a homeschool and everything else.
yeah,
But once you get into that, like, how do you not worry that your kid's going to be behind because you've
I
grown
know,
up in this
I
system?
know.
How do you break that?
It's really hard, because I question once a week, like, am I doing the right thing? Because I'm putting myself out there on social media for the backlash, for the thousands of people that still think the same, and then I am the minority. So it's really hard to not listen to the noise. So I have my wobbles where I go to Paul, like, Maya can't read, and like, we need to like look into some extra things to do at home. I have this every single week. And then I speak to other Boundless families who have been doing this for like 3 years, and their children are older and they're reading Harry Potter,
Hmm.
and they're 10 years old, and it doesn't matter now. So I have to, I am having a constant battle, because I am conditioned. I did go to school, I went to sixth form, like, I was an overachiever, and in a way, I wanted my kids to go to private school and become lawyers. But now
Fit the system. Yeah.
I'm the opposite now. I'm like, no, I'm not bothered about GCSEs. No one's asked me for my GCSEs ever. And we teach our kids, even now at a really young age, about money and understanding money and how to make money work for you, rather than you giving your time for money, because your time is the most valuable thing that you can ever have, because you can't get it back. And this is what we're teaching our kids now. And we have an Airbnb business, and I take Amaya onto the app with me, and we look through the app, and I get her involved in how it is like to run an Airbnb, because it's an asset for us that's making us money. And if she can understand how money works, then she can make money passively. Whereas I was never taught about money. I was
Yeah.
taught to save money and then buy a house. So I
Yeah.
saved all my money and then I put it all into my house. So I now have to work like a crazy person to pay my mortgage, you know? So I'm on the hamster wheel now.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had taken that money and reinvested it into something that was going to make me more money, I would have been in a position now at the age of 40 that I could buy a house outright, and that would be a valuable asset to then make bring me income. But I didn't know about money, and I'm learning about money now, and I'm teaching. I'm like almost undoing all the rewiring that I had at school and to put me in the system to make the money, to make money to keep me in there. I'm having to unwire it all and
Yeah.
then relearn, which
Yeah.
is, they say it's never too late to do it. And it is never too late to do it. But it's just that there's a lot of things that are set now. So it's a little bit
Yeah.
harder.
That's why I asked, because it is once you've grown up in this and once you've grown up with certain things pushed on you, it's
Yeah.
incredible that you have been able to break that. And I think our
Yeah.
generation are very much now questioning a lot because we've had the
Yeah.
education and we've been taught,
Yes.
even at school we've been taught to you have to show both sides of the argument. So we've got this
I
analytical
know.
mind. And we're
Yeah.
now questioning the systems that we've been brought into. I mean, even me as a nutritionist and working with women with hormonal issues, it's like, well, why aren't they teaching us to connect with our body? And why,
I know.
like, there's just so much that's put on us that isn't taught in school and things that I think we actually really, really need to know.
Well, also, I mean, I suppose from your, so I'm going to plug my phone in. And also from your position, Jodie, as well, I think that, women and hormones and nutrition, we're not taught about at school
No.
as well, like how to kind of look after ourselves to make sure that we're sane. Like hormones are
Yeah, just
huge,
that little bit, yes.
just but we're told from a very young age to go on the pill and disrupt our hormones. And I wasn't taught about like chemicals in tampons, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
learning about all of these things now. And non-stick pans and all of the horrible chemicals out there that disrupt our hormones. And that's what we should be taught in school.
yeah,
We should be taught about these important factors: diet, nutrition. I mean, nutrition, what we're taught again is keeping us sick, right? So
yeah.
again, it's just all. I went down this rabbit hole when I was pregnant with Lils that everything's a lie. We've been lied to about
Yes,
everything, and
yeah, yeah.
so
Is that what
yeah,
sent you
that's
into the
where
hole in the
it's. I
first
went into the
place?
hole,
Yeah,
and
it
then
will
when
do that.
it's almost better to not be awake with stuff because you're almost then. I was happy because I wasn't questioning anything, but as soon as you start questioning things and you get into that horrible rabbit hole cycle, you're like, oh wow, like everything's a lie.
Yeah, I
So
am 100% with you with that.
yeah.
And then other people around you start looking at you like you're crazy.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was almost outcasted. I mean, to be fair, the year that we decided we were going away, we told nobody until the September, and we left at the end of December. So we didn't tell anybody we were leaving. We kept it a secret, but there was lots of things attached with like food that I started like coming out with, and then I'm not going to send my children to school. And then, I'd go to dinners with my friends and I would feel increasingly detached from them, not on the same page. And I was like, wow, these are not my people anymore. And it wasn't their fault. It was just I was growing into someone different. And when I came away and we started Boundless, we didn't do Boundless for the community. We did it for the kids' education, if you like, alternative education. Because a lot of people come at me saying that my children will have no education, which they will do, but it just will be different to the UK education. But the Boundless community is incredible, and all of the parents get together and socialize, do these different events, and everyone's like-minded. And I found my people, whereas I'm talking about crazy things about vegetables, and they're like, yeah, I get it, like buy
Yeah,
organic. And
yeah.
because yeah, I definitely have been called a hippie, a crazy lady. And even my mum does not agree with what we're doing, and she thinks I've lost the plot.
But good for you for staying strong, and that's what I admire a lot is that you've stood strong in yourself and you've almost
Yeah.
become, I know you've had wobbles, but very deep down at the core, like this unshakable. You've had this vision, you've known
Yeah.
what you're going to go and do, and you've done it. And that's not a lot of people would be able to do that. So that's
No,
really amazing. But great
thank
that
you.
Paul was on
It's
board with you as well.
Yeah, I think it really helps to have a partner on the same page. And, I said to him the other day, I want to go and live in Costa Rica in the jungle and grow my own food and have chickens. And he was just like, whoa,
Take me then.
one,
Leave Paul, take
yeah,
me. I want to
yeah,
do
you
that.
can, we can have a farm. We can
Do you know
do
what?
our own thing.
I'm not going to tell you how well, no, I will. I was watching Netflix. I don't know whether you've seen the Zac Efron Down to Earth, and he's gone to
Oh
Costa
my,
Rica.
he's gone to the eco village. This
Yes,
is this is where I want to live.
I,
This is the
I'm coming with
place.
you.
Oh
I'm
my
coming with you.
goodness, Jodie, that's
Yeah.
it.
Oh, maybe this was meant to be. The universe is bringing us together for this because I have
Mm,
watched that, and that was almost one of
it's
my turning points.
amazing.
That I'm just looking around, going, I can't do that. I need to go there. And I start having
It is
conversations with people. They look at me
amazing.
like I'm mental. I'm like, but their poo, it all comes together. Their poo all comes together to create fuel. And I was like,
It's
all right, Jodie.
incredible. And I actually
Yeah.
hopped on a call with that company. They had like a webinar, and I'm deadly serious about it. And the only kind of downfall, not the downfall, is that you have to buy the houses in these jungles. So you need to have the capital
Oh
to
yeah, I
to do
think I
it, which
looked at this. Yeah.
we're just not in that position to do so. But I got on the call, and so when I think of something, I then manifest it. So I have to, like, I need to see what those homes look like, and I need to imagine myself there. And it might not be right now, but yeah, that's so funny that you say
Yeah.
that. That's exactly where Zach went.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I would be happy if he came with the apartment as well. But do you know what gets me? And I'll be honest here, is that I look at this and I look at your life and I go, yep. And then I have been to these places. I went to Bali on my honeymoon. I
Yeah.
can't do it. Bali and Thailand. I'm like a nervous wreck
Yeah.
because I'm petrified of getting bitten. This is my weakness.
Yes.
Traveling is my weakness. I always think I'm going to do it. And then I freak out and I get bitten. I
Super
can be next to Joel, my
poorlies.
husband. He won't get like touched and I am covered from head to foot in bites. I'm the one sitting on the toilet the entire time. Like it is just
You're
not
ill.
for me. So this Costa Rica thing I might have to rethink. But I did find an eco village in Scotland and I was like, this is like for literally an entire
Amazing.
eco retreat where they have
Really?
vegetables, they have about 10 bedrooms, you can host retreats there. It's in the
Oh
hills, they've got
wow.
waterfalls, and it was less than my house for this entire like
What?
village. I'm like, let's
You're like, we're
go.
selling up.
I know, but then I just think, this is where I asked you, like, is it better in your head? But were you a bit of a traveller when you were younger?
Um, I used to always go to Thailand. So
Okay.
I wasn't like a massive traveler because I had my businesses from like the age of 21. So
Wow.
I was deep. I was in with that from a very young age. So my whole of my 20s and up till I was 35. So but my escape was Thailand. So every year I would go to Thailand for a month for my birthday. So in
Wow.
January I'd always go to Thailand, and I loved that there was no rules there. So there was always a bit of me that loved Southeast Asia because my life's so regimented in the UK, and I am a very regimented person.
Yeah.
I loved being on the back of a moped, in Thailand, or getting a boat to an island and staying there for 3 nights and not having a plan. And it was always like maybe an alter ego inside that loved that kind of no rule freedom feeling. So when this midwife was talking about Thailand, I was like, this is a sign. I loved
Yeah.
with a family, it was different. It wasn't for us. I think we would like to go back and give it another go. Now we're in a different position and the Leels is not so small, but yeah, there was just something was missing there. Something was missing. But Bali we'd never been to, so it was a bit of a risk. And I have to say, when we first arrived here, I did get dengue fever
Oh
from the
God. Oh
mosquito,
my God.
and I was extremely unwell. And if I get dengue again, it's worse the second time round. So I am taking a big risk being here for my
Oh my God,
health.
you're so brave. I'd just be like, come home. Just like lovely as it is. This is where
Come on.
I would go. The grass is not greener because
I know,
I couldn't do
exactly.
that. I'd be like,
It's
just come
it's mad.
home.
I douse myself in mosquito spray when I go out, and but this is like our life is so much better here. It's kind of worth.
Yeah.
all of the things. I mean, Bali is somewhere I didn't realize you love it or you hate it. So you either come here and see the beauty, or you come here and you see the rubbish and the other things that Bali offers. It's a tricky one. I didn't know that there was such a divide until we did our first cohort, and half of the families couldn't wait to leave. They hated it so much, and we were like, we've signed up for another 3 months. This is
Wow.
great here. So yeah,
And
interesting.
and did those
Like,
other families go on to other places in the boundless? Like, do
yeah.
they go to Europe or somewhere?
They went to Europe. This is Boundless is heavily American, and Americans love Europe. They have the European dream. So the cohorts in Europe are always full. Whereas you'll find that on the Boundless Bali ones, there's more European people here because
Right.
we're always coming to Southeast Asia, and they've released some South American destinations like Uruguay, and that's been really popular with like the UK audience. But the Americans, especially like the Americans here on the cohort, like no, we're not going to South America. They're like not interested at all.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Interesting.
they went to Europe and loved it. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's a real personal thing, and a lot of people see my Instagram and say, "Oh, I'd love to move to Bali," and I always say, "You must come for a holiday. You have to
Yeah.
come for two
Just
weeks,
try it.
and you have to see. Yeah, you have to try
What
it."
would your advice be to anyone that is going through your social media and they are seeing your stories and they've got this nudge, like this gut feeling? Because I think so many of us are feeling it. That's like,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah.
What would be the first steps? What would you do if you were, I was going to say back
Doing it
again,
again.
but you've done it. But if you maybe weren't
Yes.
feeling so brave, or you were just, you started at the
Yeah.
beginning where you got this nudge.
I would, if someone could rent there, if you could rent your house out and know that you had something to go back to. So you have your insurance like of your house, and take a family gap year or a family 6 month where you can take the kids out of school but you're not deregistering them, ask for permission to leave just for a short period of time, get a sabbatical from work and just go and see, so it doesn't feel so permanent. And something like Boundless Life, for example, like creates a community from the offset. So you arrive and it's not so scary. You're not in this country not knowing anything. They suggest housing, there's community, you meet these people right at the beginning. They know where to go for your supermarket shop, where you can have your nails done, like all the little things that you have, because you have your nail place and your hair place. And you start in this new place and you think, well, where am I going to go? But you've got this amazing ladies who put you in a WhatsApp group and say, hey, there's here. And just the support and the community is so incredible, as well as your kids are having this amazing education as well. So I feel like finding a program like that really helps because you won't feel so alone. But I mean, I joined a load of world schooling groups on Facebook and it's been really helpful. And people have little groups that they put together on Facebook, and then they'll go and meet in a country all together. Like 9 families might go and meet in Costa Rica and stay there for 9 weeks, and they'll have
Wow.
tutors come in and they'll do amazing activities together and again create the community. And I think that's important because you're coming away from your whole entire life and everything that you know. It's a scary thing to do, and a lot of people do end up going home, but I can understand because it feels so lonely. And when you've got kids and you guys as parents, you're trying to like figure out all of this stuff, you can't really be the best parents because you're trying to like settle in a new place. So I think it's important to find a community before you arrive in a place, and then know that you can go back home if you want to.
But you'll never go back, you don't think? Never.
I'm having a battle with Paul at the moment. He wants to sell our house.
Mm.
So there's a lot of opportunity here in Bali. He would like to buy some land and build here. And Paul's a builder himself, so he's got some great ideas. So I'm kind of holding on a little bit. I had my babies there in my house and we built it from scratch. And I love my home, but it's a good business for us at the moment. It's bringing us some income. But if we can find and make that money elsewhere, then I would be up for cutting the ties. I've sold my businesses now. I randomly had someone approach me mid last year, and I sold all of my. I have no attachment to the
Wow.
UK. I sold
Wow.
everything. So we're completely free of the UK. We're no longer residents there either. We're residents of the UAE. So we've kind of given up our residency. The only thing we have now is our house and a UK passport, and that's it. But we'll never
Wow.
go back.
Oh my goodness.
Unless we have to, like
Yeah.
if we had to, something happened to Paul and I, you never know, can never say never, but it wouldn't, it's not in our next 5 year plan for sure.
Yeah. One thing I did, because I was about to wrap up and I thought I've got to ask you this. When
Yeah,
you're
sorry.
on social media a lot and you say you're
Yeah,
filming like 45 stories a day,
yeah.
how do you feel like it's kind of sucking you in and are you able to remain present still? Because one thing I find is that we can get caught up, and also I've noticed that you're only following like one person. So I guess you're not
Boundless.
bombarded by, there's so much I want to ask you, but you're not bombarded
Oh
by
no.
all of like these what everyone else is doing. But how do
Yeah,
you maintain the presence on social but being
yeah,
present in your own life? Where
yeah.
are you finding that balance?
I'm learning to do the balance, or create the balance as I'm going. So, I mean, Instagram's very new. I set that up in May. I actually didn't do TikTok for a long time because I was trying to learn the algorithm, and it was a bit too much because we were moving around as well. And, for me, stories are easy because I'm literally just filming a little snippet for a minute of me, let's say on a moped going to my destination. But then at my destination, I'm not filming, I'm there having my time. So I'm trying to create that balance, and probably less, filming when I'm with the children, but I am learning, and it is intrusive, social media. Um, I enjoy it. I do really enjoy it. But at the same time, there is, like we were saying, that pressure to put the content out. You need to, always be consistent all of the time. You need to go with the trends. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to kind of study, if you like. And some of my posts can take me weeks to put together. But I normally do that. The kids go to sleep and I'll stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning doing stuff. So
Wow.
I also have my days free now. When the kids are at Boundless, I have got my days free. So I am able to put that time in. It's almost like a job. And, I think there's a lot of money to be made through social media. And this is what is my next goal, is to turn social media into a job and make some money from it. If I can do that, then I'll stick with it. But if it's not kind of going down that way, then I'll take my foot off the pedal, I think.
Mm,
And because it is really hard to get a balance, because as I say, to stay consistent and on top of it, you're letting people into your life as well. So if you have a day where you don't feel like posting because I'm sick or I'm having a day with the kids, people are like, where are you? What are you doing?
really?
It's
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot.
Wow.
I mean, hundreds of messages I wake up to a day, hundreds, and I get back to every single person.
Is
The
that not
admin in
taking its
that.
toll on your mental health a bit? Or you,
No, I don't. Do you know what? I don't. How my mental health was before to now is like night and day. I really want to help other people do this. And, as long as it doesn't obviously affect our family unit, which Paul would tell me. So there are some days that I'll get deep in it and Paul will be like, and that's why we work so well. And he'll pull me out and say, enough is enough, phone down. But I need to be told because I get carried away. Because I'm so excited to A, share, and B, I do really want people to see that this isn't a lie, that it's my content is raw and it's not like polished stuff. I have no drones and I don't like put, this amazing, immaculate post together. But I just want people to see how it really is, and
mm,
that we are doing this without a job, like a remote job. That Airbnb is an incredible platform, and there's great ways to make passive income, and we're learning it as we go, and I'm sharing that with my followers as well. I just want to show people that it's possible, and it
yeah.
is.
It's so exciting and it's so nice to hear that shift. And I think what you've said, which has helped me with my reframe as well, it's that act of service. It's that when you reframe it so that
Yeah,
you're helping other people rather than
yeah,
I just want to get famous. It's a different vibe.
yeah. I never did this with the intention of having an account and having the followers. And I meet a lot of families here in Bowness that, I speak to, that want to get into social media, and that they're asking me, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I am genuinely just posting what we're doing. And I had a real blocks in Montenegro. I felt like I couldn't post stuff because it wasn't flowing for me, so I didn't like force anything. I just post what I want to post, and if it doesn't get traction, it doesn't get traction. It doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. But yeah,
That's
there's a lot of people
alignment
that
though,
have,
isn't it? That's full
yeah,
that's you living in alignment. And they say that when you live in
yes.
alignment, things just flow and they flow for
It
you.
it's flowing. And if something, I don't go, oh no, I haven't posted for 2 days and have a panic. I'll post when something comes up and I want to post, or I want to share a message or whatever it might be. I do want to make money from social media because I think that there's a good opportunity there. But I've got a timeline on it. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't, it won't affect my content or anything. But if I can do brand deals, then this just an extra bonus. But I didn't set out in the attention for that to be what it is for
I
me.
was going to say, what are you
If
thinking? Sorry to interrupt. I'm just overly
no,
excited.
well, I met lots of other influencer families in Montenegro, and great followings, and they are making unbelievable money. They're so savvy and so clever that I was in awe of them, and they sat down to dinner with me and shared all their information. I'm like, I'm going to try this. And we've been traveling around a lot, and it's not anything that I've put the wheels into motion, but I'm going to start putting myself out there and know my worth to go, hey, I can do this for your brand. And let's see if you want to collab and work together and see if people want to work with me. And if they don't, that's fine. I'll still spread the message. It's no problem, but I will
Yeah.
give it a try and see, and I think it's a powerful place that, a lot of people can do really well on.
But I think when you're genuine as well, and you can tell that you are, and you can tell and just from your page that you're just sharing honestly your story. And I think
Yeah.
people just want authenticity these days.
Yeah, agreed.
It's so
And they want to
important.
see the highs and lows. Like we arrived in Bali, and after 2 days, our whole road flooded, and we got trapped in our villa. And the water was really dirty, and you kind of think, like, even you're like, oh no, like what have we done? Like, it's raining on this island, and we're trapped in our villa. But I'm showing that. I'm not pretending that we're having the time of our lives. It only lasted for a week, but I think that's what people want to see. They want to see what it's the reality of leaving your life and living in another country. And there are sticking points, there are things that we're learning along the way, and we've really messed up with some things as well. But you know that's the whole fun of it. Just learning. If you are going to change your whole entire life, we were very comfortable where we lived, and we had everything going. Like we didn't have to think anymore. It was all happening, and we had the money coming in, and everything was lovely. But I just sat there and thought, I can't do this for the next like 40 years.
Yeah.
Like, take my kids to school, come back home, do a Tesco shop, clean
It's
my house,
Groundhog
change their
Day.
beds
It's
every
Groundhog
single
Day.
day. And my kids
Yeah.
were small. Like,
Yeah.
Lils was like a few months old. And I was like, and yeah, I was like, I had no idea how we were going to change it because we had trade, but I just knew that it was possible. And
Yeah.
that's what I want to share with people, because a lot of people say to me like, oh well, you had money anyway and you did this, but we put bonus on a credit card, we took massive risks, we didn't know if it was going to work. But
Yeah.
unless you try, you don't know, right?
That's what's so lovely. It's just seeing this idea or having this idea and going for it. And
Yeah.
this podcast was set up because I'm like, what can this be? Because I want to speak to people that have rebelled against the norms and
Yeah.
created something. And this is exactly what your story has inspired me. And it's fantastic. And
Oh, I'm
I love
pleased.
hearing it. It's
Yeah.
great. I'm like, where can I go that doesn't have dengue fever? I would say
I
I'll
know,
meet you in
that's the
Costa
one thing.
Rica, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
There are I mean, Boundless are always dropping new destinations. I hear like Japan's on the cards, and
Wow.
just some really cool places. And I think that 3 months is a really manageable amount of time to maybe step away from your life, to maybe leave a job for a little period of time, or if you're self-employed, having enough money to get you through, or taking the kids out for 3 months. A lot of families on Boundless just take their kids out for 3 months and then they go back into the UK education
Yeah.
system.
Wow, I'm
Just
gonna
a little bit
have
of
to
excitement,
go.
a little taste of something, and then you can go back to it again.
Okay,
But
I'm
yeah,
coming. I'm doing this.
yeah,
I'm going to
come,
speak to Joe. I'll be like, I'm
come,
going. Bye. You
tell
can
Boundless that
stay.
you're sponsored them on a podcast or something. Say, right, guys,
Yeah,
this is what I can do
totally.
for you. I'll
Totally.
plug it for you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. But we'll have to, yeah, meet up somewhere along the way. I did Bali. I'm not sure I can go that far again, but maybe
Yeah, it's far.
Greece looks great. Would you come to let's hang out in Greece? No, you don't want to go back to
There's
Europe
there is
again.
there is a Greece cohort that we were really interested in. I mean, I would absolutely. I would. There's a beautiful there's Estepona, beautiful destination that they've got, which looks amazing. I would go, but I'm not going to get Paul out of Bali. He is He is deep in Bali life. I think that I would get him to, somewhere like Japan, somewhere like Costa Rica as
Yeah.
to try. But I think I'm going to be hard pressed to even get him back to the UK, just to visit family. Every time we go, he's like,
How funny. I love that it was your idea, but he's so on board. It's
I,
brilliant.
oh, it's like the tape, like he is deep in this life. It's like he was always meant to kind of be in Southeast Asia. He loves being on the moped. He loves the freedom. He loves that there's no rules. Like it suits him down to the ground. So I think I
Amazing.
will get him to do a bit of traveling next year, but this year he's deep in Bali.
And how can we find you, for anyone that isn't already following you, how can we find you to keep up with this journey and see what's next?
So we are the Richardsons '04 on socials, both Instagram and TikTok. And I do post different content on both platforms. So I have people that follow me on both because you get a little taste of different things because I feel like the audiences are very different. But yeah, Instagram is for the stories. That's what a lot of people are there for. So just getting into the rawness of what it's like to live in Bali. And I've got like a subscribe side as well, which talks about all of the ins and outs of moving to another country and what does that entail and how we became residents of the UAE. So I've really gone into a lot of detail on posts there as well. So yeah, we have people over there who are interested in doing the same thing. So I've just shared all of my knowledge over there.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to link everything in the notes anyway. I
Thank
have
you.
loved this chat so much, and thank you. I know
Yes,
it's
me
late there, so
too.
I'll let you go to
No,
bed.
no, it's fine. I'm sorry I was late and that Paul was very hungover. He was again deep in Bali life yesterday. We had a nanny come and he drank so many margaritas. I've dragged that man around today with his head in his hand. And when we picked the kids up, he was like, I've got to go to bed. And I looked
Oh
at him like
no.
in disbelief, like, how am I going to do the kids by myself? But anyway, it's been
You
fine.
did a good
We
job.
worked
We
it
we
out.
made it. We made it. I was
We
like,
made
I've
it.
got to have this conversation with you. I can't wait
I
any
know.
longer.
I'm
But
here.
thank you. Thank you. And
Thank you,
I'm going to keep in
Jodie.
touch with you. I want to know
Yes.
everything. This is magic.
And if you go to Costa Rica, then tell me.
Yeah, and if anyone listening knows where Zac Efron is, and if he'd like to join us in Costa Rica,
We're
please.
available.
We're
We're
definitely
suddenly
available.
divorced.
Well, I was going to say, well, it sounds like Paul doesn't want to go. I'm not sure Joel will, so it can just be you, me, and Zach.
I was going to say, like, Paul would happily stay here. I mean, he's openly been like, well, if you want to fly back to England, you can do. I mean, I think I have to take the kids with me. But yeah, we can just meet in Costa Rica. Lovely.
Done. Perfect.
Done.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
thank you, Jodie.
Thank you so much, and I've loved this.
Yes,
So
me too. Thank you. It's nice to share with everybody.